I saw Barbie Wednesday night, packed crowd. Didn't fully know what I was getting into with this movie. I was expecting there to be kind of this meta element to it. It kind of reminded me of a blend of Elf slash uh, Lego movie, even like a little bit of like kind of that corporate cynicism that I think we've been seeing in films like Air or Flaming Hot this year. So going into this movie, I was kind of just curious what the tone of this movie was going to be. It had a little bit of a Truman Show vibe to it, I think, also being advertised. And when watching this movie, the first 10 minutes are not clicking with me. Barbie is not working for me for the first 10 minutes of this movie. Uh, and then as the film goes on, it actually really kicks into a high gear. And then I really enjoyed this movie throughout. Barbie stars Margot Robbie, Ryan Gosling, and has supporting performances from actors and actresses such as Cera, America Ferrera, who's very good in this movie. Emma Mackay from Sex Education is in this movie. You have other actors. I don't know if I mentioned. I think I mentioned Cera, but there are other male actors. Simu Liu from Shang-Chi is in this movie, and this cast is having a lot of fun. And for this first opening scene, I was kind of just like, I get the jokes, I kind of get the tone. It's a little bit out of whack for me where I'm just like, is this going to be the whole movie? Luckily, it's not. And when we get to the real world, that's actually kind of where I clicked into the movie the most. I think this is where the story really kicks a high gear because this film is basically Barbie is having an existential crisis and goes to the real world and kind of learns about what the real world is and her role as an icon, as a toy, and kind of the controversy around Barbie since then. That's what this movie really focuses in on, and it does so pretty expertly. I was kind of shocked with the social satire that Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach, the writers of this film, were able to get away with Barbie. There is a real discussion of, and this is going to piss off people like Ben Shapiro, who I know had a literal meltdown today on Twitter because he was forced to see this movie. There's terms in this movie such as feminism, the patriarchy, and if you're prone to get annoyed by those terms, I don't know what to tell you. I would say kind of like grow up and expand your reach and expand your horizons, but you're probably not at that point in your life, so don't see this movie and don't bitch about it on Twitter like a little baby. Uh, Ignoring that, because I know none of you are going to pay attention who are that type of people to do that. So going into Barbie, like I said, there's these ideas that I didn't fully expect to come away with Barbie, and it actually ended up being a really clever social satire about the female experience, specifically in America, and Barbie's role in kind of the past 50 to 60 years of the American female. And that was a really shocking way that this movie unfolds, and they do it with such care. This movie could be easily branded as cynical just due to the nature of it's a movie about a toy. And Mattel is in this movie, and Mattel isn't fully the bad guy. Will Ferrell is in the movie as the Mattel boss. He's very funny, though his role seems a little, not necessarily scatterbrained, but it didn't feel like they had a ton to do with the Mattel CEOs. It felt like a one-note joke at times, even though that joke was very funny. So there is this kind of nervousness that I'm starting to then creep up in me where I'm just like, is this kind of like a pat on the back? And that's not what this movie is. It is an actual exploration of the history of Barbie in female culture, specifically with young children, like the ideals, some of the bad ideas that Mattel had with advertising Barbie, some of the bad products they've released, and it's done in a really clever and funny way. Margot Robbie is fantastic as the female Barbie in this movie. I say female Barbie. It's her name is stereotypical Barbie in this film. I think she's absolutely wonderful. The comedy is really grounded in on her. And if she doesn't work, this movie doesn't work. Actually, fundamentally, this performance is so important. Even if she doesn't get the big laugh lines, like let's say Ryan Gosling in this movie does. Ryan Gosling in this movie is exceptional. Like, I mean, this guy's always been a talented comedic performer, from movies like Crazy Stupid Love to more specifically The Nice Guys. Like, this guy has the goods as a comedic actor. In this movie, Greta Gerwig understands how to use Gosling to the best of her ability, and he is absolutely really funny in this movie. So worth it. I'll turn the TikTok camera on real quick. I never do this, but I am going to turn the TikTok camera on For Barbie, this is my big... This isn't a prediction, because this is not going to come true. But here is my one declaration on Barbie. If there was any justice, Ryan Gosling should probably get nominated for Academy Award for his role as Ken in Barbie. I fully, sincerely believe this. He is so laugh out loud funny in this movie. This is such a tricky performance that he is given, and the material that he could do, if given to a different person, the jokes could just tank and go horribly wrong. They never do. He's actually insanely on beat for this movie, and he has to ground actually a fair share of the emotion in this movie. I just think it's a really astute performance from Ryan Gosling. I think it's a very challenging performance, and under a different actor, this performance could have been a disaster and tanked this movie. Gosling does it all with sincerity, with emotion, with heart, with just such a bro energy that I don't even fully understand how to quantify, but it's there in this movie. I think he's wonderful. I think Ryan Gosling should get a nomination. I know it's never happens, but I'd be glad to see him on that list. So that's my little talk on Ryan Gosling. But kind of going back into this movie, all the performers in this movie are very funny. Michael Cera has a few really funny lines. Kate McKinnon, who's typically someone that I don't always care for in movies, I thought she was really good in this movie. I think other actors that pop up in this movie, like a Simu Liu, I thought were very well handled. America Ferrera is another actress that I just think she gets one speech, I should say, in particular, that could have been a disaster. And under her hands, it's actually probably the most emotionally impactful scene in the movie. People are going to find Barbie heavy-handed. Like, there's no way about it. Like, there are very specific scenes that are meant to generate a certain reaction and even kind of do that thing where it pauses for a second so the audience can clap. I can tell you, opening day, that worked to wonderful effects. I didn't mind it. I really did not mind those scenes. I actually thought they worked within the context of the movie. I think they're fairly well written. I also don't mind when a director kind of jumps on a soapbox and kind of just starts talking and sharing their opinions. That's kind of why I like directors. Like, I want to see them bring in their style and their beliefs into filmmaking. If you're annoyed by that, you probably will be annoyed with certain scenes of this movie, because it is a very... Greta Gerwig is a very classical feminist reader, I should say. Like, she knows all the classic texts of feminism. It's been very clear in her filmography. She really refers to them. Specifically, some of the writings that come out of the 1970s, they're all in here, and you can feel that influence. You can also feel the influence of films like Lady Bird. There's a real strong connection of mothers and daughters in this movie that I think works to just really great emotional effect. Like I said, overall, there is messiness in this movie. Like, I can't deny that there are jokes. I would say the joke pattern in this movie is 60, 10, and 20. Is that add up? No, 60, 10, and 30. That's the correct math. 60, 10, and 30. 60% of the jokes hit. 30% of the jokes do not hit. And 10% of the jokes are some of the funniest jokes I've seen in a movie this year. And yeah, so there are some misses. There are some jokes that just bombed to me and I did not find funny. But the ones that did hit, some of the hardest I've laughed this whole year. Specifically, there's this montage with Ryan Gosling when they get to the real world, and I don't want to spoil anything of it, but it's very funny, and you'll know the montage because it's very clear and it's very self-referential in many ways. Like I said, overall, I like Barbie. I should mention the production design of this movie is incredible. The world of Barbie, it really does feel like a playset come to life. You can really feel the influence of directors like The Truman Show in here, where it's just like this kind of fake feeling world. It's just a really beautiful color palette. It's a really fun movie to watch. Highly recommend Barbie this weekend. I had a blast with it. I'm going to hit the 4 out of 5 star movies, even if it's a movie that there are certain issues in that I won't get into a non-spoiler review. I won't touch on some of those issues, but I will say that there are some... The film is very silly, and there's kind of just this wrap-up that happens at the ending, and it doesn't really go anywhere, and it really does just becomes a really, really goofy. And at times that allows the message of the film to kind of get lost at times. I didn't have a huge issue with it, and I think this will be a fun rewatch. This is one of the things that's allowing me to get it from 3.5 stars to actually get it to 4 stars, is because I think I'm going to rewatch this movie.